like I say, I can't say I was ever really. I wasn't exactly the black people's leader, exactly like that. I can't say that I was necessarily exactly with them. I had had them around me, and I did create them, by the way. Like I said, I came to a point in my life when somebody asked me if I would create a race of people that was black or something else like that. And they said they wanted some people and they wanted them to be black. And I said, well, all right, it's just a simple change anyway, sure, whatever you want. And I created a race of people and basically led them for a time to a certain point and said, okay, you created, you're led. All right, see ya. Anyway, and then moved on, figuring they would rejoin my other groups or whatever else like that, because I had other groups, but so I created a race of people, had them born into this world and fathered and basically taken care of, and then put into little communities, and they even had their own little city-like area, kind of like thing. So they were like the black little tribes or whatever else like that. And they were inventing and working and doing stuff like that and all this and that kind of stuff. And then at a certain point I said, okay, I'm out of here. I got to go do other things. I can't do this anymore. I mean, I had lots of other mining stuff, and I helped them get set up, and so did some of the Germans. They helped them along. And they got set up and everything else like that, and did some experiments and some other stuff, and was researching and doing some stuff, and had a little town and all that. And I think the Indians might have attacked them. I'm not exactly sure. But I'm not exactly sure what happened to them. But basically they were there, and they were fine and raising and doing their own little whatever thing. And I wandered off. I had to do other things, I mean, I have an empire to run and other towns I was doing. And I was just kind of like bringing black people into this world and universe, and then led them to a certain point where they'd be fine, where they could work off of the other groups, and then told the other groups about them basically, and had them go and check on them, and Germans checked on them and stuff like that. Anyway, so I was basically their leader, and I led them like a long time ago, possibly even before other groups had actually existed. I'm not exactly sure exactly the whole this group, that group, everything else like that. But basically I had created or made people black pretty much. And I don't really know. It's all in the scheme of things in the grand sense. And this was probably like a couple 100,000 years ago. I'm not exactly sure. But I was like, okay, no problem, sure. And I basically set them up and led them to a certain point in time and space and said, okay, there you go. And then probably had some horses given to them. Anyway, so then I wandered off and let them basically mind themselves. Like I said, I mean, many groups I had basically led, and then I was like, all right, well, I'm going to go build something else, and you guys take care of yourselves and watch the farm or the mine and do what you're doing. I'd wander off, and they would basically, talk among themselves, work out a way of doing things, and, it was pretty much as very open leadership kind of thing. Basically, they're my life forms, and I was their benefactor and leader, and basically Lucifer Star. Anyway, so apparently the black people had decided to center on one leader, and this leader, I guess, like I say, had turned into a real piece of work where he just didn't care. He, like I said, black people had a language and had towns and everything else like that. Anyway, the black people claim that the Indians attacked them, although I seriously doubt that. At least the Indians never would attack without provocation. I'm sure they had a reason. Like I said, I knew Indians very well, and Indians never attacked without provocation. Although who knows who actually attacked them? I don't really know. I mean, the Indians would probably say that it was actually the black people that actually attacked. Although, like I said, the black people were trying to wear white man's skin or white people's skin and go and attack people and try to pretend like they were not black or something like that. It was something really weird like that, because the Indians said, yes, we know them. They called them, I think they called them the skinwalkers, because they would take another man's skin and they would put it and sew it onto the back of their heads, and then they would go do raids as if they were white people. Really sick people. Anyway, don't ask me why black people who had a mine and a mill, they had a mine, they had a mill, they had everything. They had a nice little community of black people. And for some reason, they just decided to go like a jet. And they just like about faced and ran themselves into the ground, it looks like. Yep. Anyway, I don't really know, because they had a town, they had a mill, they had like a little city basically going of all black people. And at some point in time, maybe it was Papa Boys and whatever, but they decided to make a play for world domination or world control, and they decided to go with abuse and everything else like that, and drug control. Like I said, Papa and his gang would tell the white people that they needed the black man's you know what, or else they would go through withdrawals and they would die. You know, they did this whole mystical thing where basically if my white man ever stopped eating black man's shit, they would die. And it was really the opium that they mixed in with it. They would mix in some pure opium with that, and maybe some grains or something else like that. And they tried to make the white people and the British people, they're the Irish people basically, think that they had to have the stuff in their food or else they would die. And it was basically just opium withdrawal. That was it, pretty much. And not much more than that. Anyway, it's really underhanded and wrong. So anyway, and then later on, like I said, they bought bulletproof vests and they're walking around like big thugs, you know, using whatever, shooting themselves up with something. Anyway, it's really sad what happened to the black people, because their leader was just a real, you know what. And they went to Ireland and everywhere else, and that's pretty much how it went. You know, and they basically just ran themselves into the ground after Papa or whoever came to power. He made sure that no other black person ever read a book ever again, or ever knew anything. He basically kept them at like feeding from his hand, pretty much. Anyway, that happened around 1800 or so, 1900, and they ran around pretending that they were white people or some other people, using other people's names. So anyway, nothing was documented, so you know, no one really knows what they did exactly, except for the Irish and the British and some other people. So anyway, and I know because I had mines and I was getting people away from them, that they were beating and hurting and doing this little thing about, you know, people needing this stuff or else they would die. Like, you know, the sheikhs, those are your death throes, they would say. And it was just really bad. Really, really bad. And, you know, it was wrong for them to do, and you know, they tried to stop us from buying their people and buying their mines and all that. And it was just something that happened between 1700 and 1800. That was really like the darkest times, you might say. You know, it was the height of Papa's power, or whatever, the Papa gang. Anyway, he was a real piece of work, and basically destroyed. You know, by the time he was done with the black people, they didn't have any language left. They didn't have any technology. They could barely make fires, really. They had no steel, no metal. He sold it all off for bulletproof vests and some other stuff, you know, or whatever, you know, for guns, for armor-piercing bullets, and some cannon. Anyway, basically ran the whole black community into the ground, pretty much. You know, took over a couple towns, took over a couple more towns, and basically used bulletproof vests and armor-piercing bullets, and basically went around killing people. Although most people didn't even have bulletproof vests, so he wasted his money on the armor-piercing bullets. Anyway, yeah. So, like 1700 to 1800 or 1900, some year, they ran themselves into the ground to where there was no language left. And then they were just, you know, selling their babies for guts, basically. And only making a pittance, as they say. Anyway, whatever. Trying to make me go out of business or something, I don't know.